Right. Bambulem, I bring you a warm welcome and greetings from the Denena Media Empire. I bring you a warm greetings of love from the Denena Media Empire. Today, the 3rd of September 2021. The 3rd of September 2020. Right. Famulem, obviously, like I say, we'll bring on a warm greetings from the Denena Media Empire today, the 3rd of September 2021. Me where they talk to una host and presenter, Prince Emil Koma, they come to una live. Obviously, we do a couple of system tests over a number of weeks now, and this is just one of them. And so far, it looks so good. So anyway, today, as part of this system test, we want to run a quick commentary. For a long time, I haven't done something where a monotone, if you go like, a monologue, if you go like. I haven't done it. And it's necessary for us to do it and combine them with other aspects of we conversation that we have with the general public. So in this regard, Famulem, they ask una kindly let us share. Please let us share. Let us do due diligence to the national conversation by sharing this. And what we want to talk about today, as soon as I can see the title, it gets something to do with the society in which we live. For too long a time, they get difficulty in the society whose we live for many, many reasons. It bordered on political, social, and economic reasons, which are not going well at all, despite many trials and errors. But the question here today is how committed and dedicated our leaders are. So after sitting for a while and doing the reasonable thing where people and go think say very, very reasonable for do, which is asking questions and talking to people and doing basic research, we decide put this down today to a couple of things we got to do with the issue of leadership. Yes, this is exactly how we intend to look at it today from the position of leadership. Because leadership, let's be honest, as the word goes, now is sort of the shape, the destiny of a nation. A nation needs leadership. So now within this context, I want to talk briefly tonight during this test transmission. And let's develop some context in this regard. So political problems, Fambulem, are nothing new, let's be honest. They go back decades. We can even put them during the period of independence or before independence. But you see, it doesn't do us well. Because as a nation, they grow and they mature, then definitely, for the learn lessons, first of all, on why we asked for independence, how prepared we were, and I know they say we were prepared, or if we are not prepared, why shouldn't we have found a solution? In fact, this is all part of the discourse here tonight. Why haven't we found a solution? So with problems then go all the way back to independence, after independence, political struggle, and all of this between two parties called the All People's Congress and the Sierra Leone People's Party. These two parties are responsible for the wars and throes and troubles, politically, economically, and socially for a country. This is just a given. It's a fact. But the argument is out there because one, they try for outcompete the other in terms that are mediocre, let's be honest, are below the level for which a 60-year-old nation should be talking about. So like I say, we've had with trials and tribulations, we've had all of these many problems, and there's been issues of leadership. The issues of leadership, they are on the dock with. So again, back to what you say, if we go back to the 1970s, shortly after independence, we had these problems, and these problems became compounded as we political leaders then became unserious to solve our problems, became more self-serving, became for perpetuate themselves in power, then begin for devise means, tactics, strategies, some of them which they inherited from the colonies, the colonialists, the tactics the way they use divide and rule. They learned this basically from the ones that were colonizers. And gradually they became an expert, and they became very raw in admitting this new technique them where they don't learn. It became so raw, it became so politically divisive and chaotic that many a times in we country, we find ourselves in positions of violence. In some cases, people lost their lives. The country did retrogress a lot because the gains then will be made back in the 1970s, shortly after independence. We lost most of them as most of the political institutions became politicized. The identity politics began for practice, not there and then, but like I say, going back. But I don't want to go too far back, because the reason why I say so is it reached a boiling point. All of these things that will be happen in our country reach a boiling point in which it was no longer tenable. Like in biblical terms, they can say the cup runneth over. And that means the cup full up and can't absorb the contents that's been poured into it any longer. So it run over. And when it run over, it spills. And it depends on whose analogy where you try for draw, or whose kind attribute you try for make. And in this case, it's political, and political means it became so toxic, so divisive. It became so rampant, the culture, the political culture, drawing between ethno-regional lines and tribal lines, where we can feel for call out, but mostly now people are not beginning to call them out because it play out there, in which it seems like it's them versus us. It's about color, it's about team. I belong to this team, not to the country, but to this team. Now we see out there, and this is dangerous. These are some of the things that we went to war for. So some of us are welcoming chaos. We see on social media. So when I say the evidence is plenty out there. Some of us, I don't know whether we understand the meaning of chaos or what erupts, where chaos finally erupts. Because you can call for them, you can initiate them, you can think, say, now something where you go able to control. But no, you only need to look back at precedents then. Never has it happened for people the way instigate them, for manage for put the genie back inside the bottle once they unleash them. You want to go back to the Rwandan genocide? You want to go back to Somalia? You want to go back to the Sudan? You want to go back to Libya? I can draw boku examples then. The political leaders, and then surrogate them, they advocate for chaos. And mostly when they call for chaos, now where the center cannot hold. Because political power is sweet. It's sweet. But remember, say you can only enjoy this political power more if the rest of you people them are benefiting from policies, positive policies them, where they enact, where they implement, where they impact the lives of the people. Then at least you can sleep well as a leader. So again, back we go to the problem with sowing chaos, where some of us they call for, like the president go Turkey, I think, to a museum, or they inspect arms basically. And supporters of the president and his party were seen celebrating in social media that these weapons that are being inspected or were being inspected by the president of the entire nation was meant for one part of the nation, to be used for one part of the nation. This is not another people, the compatriots of the others are advocating for such a thing. Some of them actually in glee. And this is not new, that every policy enacted, implemented, suggested, proposed, will seem like if they attack the other side, because actually, politically speaking, there is an other side. That other side, regardless of how crass the policy doesn't make sense, they celebrate or think, say, this policy, because government, in effect, I believe they do them in good faith, but then think, say, they do them because of the other side. And another example where I go give you now is the denomination rather, of the Sierra Leonean currency, the leones. Of course, what in social media don't do, we don't make Boku people experts of many things. I mean, jack of many things and experts of none. Who don't know to economics, we don't even sabi economics. Basic economics, we'll talk about economics. Yes, you can talk about basic economics because economics care the basic principles of them. But when you attempt to go deep, because it's kind of artful and some part of it is pure science, then you are moving too far. Anyway, the redenomination talk was celebrated again as if an economic measure taken for the greater good of a nation will only affect one side of the demographic political landscape. I mean, this is really dangerous, and these are some of the things that we are talking about. In the end, Fambulem, the thing that we talk about chaos, if you understand what's in a chaos, I don't know, some people in Sudan abroad and then feel say they're far detached away from the mainland, so they can sit down comfortably on the other side and advocate for violence, when not when they feel the physical violence. But where is your conscience is the question that I ask, because now you people and then they suffer, that's your country being destroyed. You're in another man's country. And then you advocate for let your country be destroyed instead of you advocate for peace. There is no country in which, whether an award effect, every war ended up on a table. So there has to be Georgia, which is better than World War. We have to talk. We always have to sit down. That's the best way out. Yes, sometimes it can erupt into that. But out of that, we should learn our lessons, because that will inform what we do and how we go forward. But unfortunately, and these are some of the things that I'm talking about, that even when we go back to the 1970s and the 1980s, in which we saw political violence as a consequence of people that we want for remain in power, for shape the destiny of a nation in a negative way, we get consequences moving forward, that ended up with too much not being accepted by the people anymore. It erupted into a civil war. That civil war, they were lost over 70,000 in this conservative estimate of we people and where we lost in a war. And we therefore ask ourselves why. Because if we value the souls of those that perished during the war, why did we set up commissions from where we were supposed to learn the lessons of those of the war where we fought, where it turned out to be senseless? There was a cause for it, because the political structure broke down. The country had become a failed state. And those that in power were determined to perpetuate themselves in power. And because they control the resources of the country, i.e. the guns, because this is what they used to rule us, to intimidate us, the guns are always behind. And the laws of the country, the statutes that they implement are in the forefront. When those structures break down, the guns come out and we are coerced and forced and threatened and intimidated by those guns. So bigger guns were brought against those that had the guns. The government collapsed, a coup was initiated, and we all were hopeful. But then the same set of army people that we see is political power. They begin to machinate the system for perpetuate themselves in power. And because there were multiple of them, they could not agree. And we subsequently saw a palace coup, which brought in the current president, who lasted for 3 months then, which means that incubation period was not even over. But some of the campaign rhetoric then where we hear is, I have been there before. It is true that you've been there, but 3 months is not enough. So basically 3 months now, period we can use for probation period, which means that what you put forward, you don't get a little bit of understanding. But I'm sure that that period wasn't passed. Anyway, Fambolem, fast forwarding them, waiting the marvel me is my expectation of some people and what I expect for say better na social media, they are not, because they've taken sides. And this really, the marvel me, because you do have expectations of other people. Sometimes the expectations or opinions of others or where you hold of others can be low, sometimes reasonably, because you formed a reasonable opinion based on what you've seen and heard from a person or about a person. Although sometimes it can be wrong, because the opinion is formed on a basis of falsehood. Maybe you not see for yourself, or you rush to judgment or miss the judgment, or based on within somebody else say, a third party hearsay. But these are people where we know some professionals. So normally the one they're within a power, they can always think they're smart. They are the smartest, the most clever. And the fact points to what I just said earlier on. The thing will make you look stronger, look braver, because most of them are cowards, mind you, and they're not really smart, and most of them are dumb. This is just a fact. But this na in them called power. And this is why when people get hold of power, to let go, it becomes difficult, because you can hide within the shadows. You look invincible, you look strong, you look very powerful, and of course you are, but in many respects, you are empty. You're not empty carcass, because what you're supposed to do, you know the doer. Because you're supposed to be beholden to your people. That's supposed to be your first priority. Instead of working on systems and policies, Pambulem, and structures and institutions for right the wrongs, we're so prevalent now with society, and try to understand why we society is so plagued with unequal outcomes. Instead, government upon government is busy the practice, which we don't count for know as identity politics, which is very dangerous for our society. With a handful of supporters. Remember this, it's a handful of supporters. They make a lot of noise. It's not like you put something in an empty drum and make a lot of noise. That's what is happening. Because you get to separate the reality from myth, fact from fiction. And some of us are doing just this, and this is what it is. What impacts the lives of the people? That's what we want to talk about economically. And that's the problem on the ground. If the pump, the petrol pump don't go up, or price now the petrol pump don't go up, it's obvious that almost everything else will go up. But then you have people who want to peddle a narrative as if it's normal, instead of making a cogent, tangible argument for explain to Sierra Leonean people the difficulties on why these things are happening instead of falsehood. That affects almost everything else, either production, if we get a means of production, or where we buy and transport logistic. It's energy that is used to move from one point to the other. So for the owners, the retailers, then get the money, and for the wholesalers, then get the money, it all boils down to the consumer, which is me and you, where they consume, when they produce. We therefore live with that burden day. These are just established facts, but people will want to tell us something else. And when we make the argument to the contrary, we are seen as the other. How can we be the other? But we are happy that Sierra Leonean people are listening. Pardon me. So Fambulem, I get a lot for say in a very short program, which is about, I want to talk for about 45 minutes. And I think we don't do 20 some more minutes, because we'll begin at about 1:15. So like I said, I want to develop a little bit of a context in which I want to talk about today. And I think I've just done that. So now in this regard now, we also want to bring in why we label or we title we program as we do, which is paternalistic, a democratic, charismatic leader, probably if not in we need for change the dynamics. And I will submit to una today, Fambulem. Of course, you get your opinion and what have you, but go submit to una, say, I think so. Because there has to be a sense of feeling. You see, this is not the paternalistic come out. When I talk earlier on, when I put the flyer out, when I ask, do we need a fatherly figure, a motherly figure for move this country forward? I get a few people that will send me questions as to what you mean, and other people, of course, who were very narrow-minded in terms of the title, and some were already subjective and already they're looking on where I want to go. In other words, they made this judgment on the cover. But here it is. So the fatherly figure means a kind of a paternalistic. So let me look at the different kinds of leadership will lead me for bring this conversation to una tonight. So we need for understanding different forms of leadership and look at waiting we have, what we have been having, and waiting possibly we can have that hopefully might make the difference. Hopefully might make the difference, Famulem. Okay. I ask you again for share, Famulem. Okay. And I also want to use this opportunity for say happy birthday to my dear daughter. And the last one. She turned 16 today, and obviously, 16 is the magic age, especially for girls. So the last one turned 16 today, and I'm really, really happy. I'm home alone, of course. Me and my mama don't go out, and the family, they went out, I think, Leicester Square somewhere. And hopefully it will be my turn tomorrow, so I've got time to speak to you tonight. So I wish my daughter the happiest of all birthdays, and all those who are celebrating today, all the celebrants, happy birthday from the then and now media empire. May all that you wish for be your portion, and may you live to see and celebrate many, many more happier returns. Amen. So again, Famulem, back to basic, they talk about the styles of leadership. So number one on my list is an autocratic kind of leadership. And what's an autocratic kind of leadership? Autocratic kind of leadership, auto, as you read and define the word auto, one. Then everything center around one person. Everything, I repeat, center around one person. That one person, now equal all the responsibility and authority. And what you see, like the delegation of duties, of course, it's not real. It's all made up because in the end, that one person is the be it all and end it all. Everything they emanate from them, it can go circulate around, but it comes back to them for let things happen. That's an autocratic kind of leader. And you get in good side and you get in downside, but we country need something like that. And asking the question does not imply, nor insinuate as at yet that this is the kind of leadership we have. No, I'm not saying anything of this kind. Okay, I am not saying anything of this kind. You also get something where we call a transactional leadership. Of course, in autocratic leadership, you can name a few. I don't put President Putin of Russia in that category because we tend not to understand the people's system, and then we can want to define and look at others through the prism of another. I think that's wrong. Other people are getting cultured and getting scientific based, then literature based. In other words, well-defined countries, well-powerful countries. But because we so attach and bias and lay towards one side, and this one side mostly, especially with us, just grateful because of that one side they provide for we and not the other. So we tend to take a biased position. So that's understandable. But if you want to weigh in a broader conversation, then you have to be open with the other situations involving other countries, because we don't live in a bubble. We live in a world made up of nations. Anyway, I want to talk about transactional leadership anyway. So transactional leadership, now outside everything where the leader wants, the leader, they put conditioning down, and in some respect, even they cut small thing and give you. In other words, pay you for what you do or what you want for let you do. But we'll pretend as if not to that they do. But that's transactional. Everything we then do is kind of business-like. Do this for me, I do that for you. So instead, get in your own advantages, okay? But the question will be again, is that the kind of leadership that we want now in country, okay? I mean, these questions are all yours for consider, weigh on them and see which one really go kind of helpful for we, okay? But these are the kind of submissions that I'm making to you this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you're watching us from, and you may watch us from subsequently. So one transactional leader, and especially of late, and very powerful, now the former president of the United States, who happens to be Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a very, very transactional president. He did this for over 40 years, long before he became president, and even in the White House. That's how he dealt with other foreign leaders. It was always transactional in the name of unilateralism, America first. You have to do this before I can do that. You have to honor your obligation for me to carry on with agreements that we sign. This is it. So we also get other forms of leadership who I just want to go through quickly without wasting my time and come to the real one where I want for let we kind of deal with. And one of them will be, I think it's more French, let's say fairy leadership, which talks about authority where passing the leader, they give to the people, okay? You give to the people and you also, they expect these people and for come back and report to you and you get a minimum of interference with what they do. It's almost like delegation, instead of get your ups and downs. So let we go to 3 or 4 of the main one that we focus on, where probably we lack in our country, and hopefully if we get, that will help for influence the situation on the ground. So I want to begin with charismatic kind of leadership. So waiting a charismatic kind of leadership, of course, the word charisma, we know. So the leader in that situation, they use in kind of charismatic effects that all where people a hold of that presence where he gets, that even when not open him out, where he just come, where he just deal with him, people hold him in awe, or in the sense, not in fear, but more like in likeness and respect and appreciation of he or she being in the midst. And that power the way that person they hold can have an influence over a people and can be used for positive ends, because you can use them for influence people, not coerce. These are 2 separate things. People have respect for you, they hold you in reverence. So whenever you ask them or decide for provide leadership, say, una know it, here is consultation or a whole referendum on certain things that want for let we do, we go benefit the country, but are they do them with una consent? Because anyway, power derived from the people, so you want to take them major decision there. When a generational issue, then we go change the country in land, politically, social, and you name it forever. It's a good thing that you do a consultation with the people, or you make sure you get broad-based support now, a parliament, not manipulated, not maneuver, because the intent is good. It's not selfishly done. It's not self-serving. So therefore, you do these consultations, and the people love you, and they continue to be with you and listen to what you tell them, because there is trust. There is. So another one where I want to talk about is one where we call visionary leadership. So again, what's in a visionary leadership? This one will involve leader them we recognize method and steps and processes of leadership where you can put or channel through people them. Method, okay, where you can channel through people then. That is what we're talking about, the visionary leadership. Yeah, visionary leadership, because the leader has got a vision. So that vision, the way that leader gets, waiting and they do with them is, then they use them through people then for execute their vision. Then I then get the master plan. But then they force them upon people. The vision means, you know, in this sense and in many sense, something positive, not negative. Because the reason why they call them visionary leadership is because you've got this positive vision of your country as to where you want your country to be, how to lift your country up economically, politically, and socially. Get your people involved. Take your nation to higher height, if you like. Make your nation become relevant. Take your people out of poverty. Increase the threshold of output in a positive sense, whether not through education, like the current president they tried for do, in which you get for work on the human capacity index. You do have to work on them if you're serious about the education. So it's a combination of things, of programs, of projects, which gives you that vision, and you use the people through your vision where you get for attain the end objective, we go provide equitable outcome, not unequitable outcome. So the disparity becomes, you're less instead of white. So that's a visionary leadership formula. Okay. That is a visionary leadership. And my question again is, what do we think? When I think say we need something like this now the country, like visionary leadership, will visionary leadership help we? Will it help us? We talk about charismatic leadership earlier on, and who did we will not call names, but obviously Barack Obama, another famous and powerful man, was very, very charismatic. And when you talk about charisma, that's your presence when you appear. People are in awe. People are shaken and moved, and then continue for the yell and shout. That even sometimes long before the guy could speak, and that also goes to the late Nelson Mandela. And there are a few others. Tony Blair is a charismatic leader, but you don't lose that charisma because it don't become a contentious man. It don't become a conflicted man that when he speaks, the nation is hugely divided. Because why? They've come to find out certain things, that just were not right. And he's a very powerful orator, so he's able to twist things. But when these people appear in the public, this is what happens. People are in awe and shock. And the noise is almost endless. Almost endless. So anyway, I want to talk about transformational leadership as well. Waiting at transformational leadership. What we understand about transformational leadership is the leadership, they look for change all the time. And they look for this change through others. Not in a pretense way, because there has to be trust. There has to be trust. In politics, it's difficult to find the trust. But of course, you can find the trust because you've got a program of action, which is generally meant for the common good of all you citizens, not one citizen. When presidents then take over, depending on the situation, and sometimes they are political about the statements that they make. Like, for example, this current president is on record, and rightfully so. He was right to have said that at the time, because the elections was fought tooth and nail and was very, very divisive. That in the end, when he was eventually proclaimed the leader of the country and was sworn in, I believe it was his maiden speech, his first speech to the nation. He said, "I will be a president for all Sierra Leoneans. I will be a president for all Sierra Leoneans." I believe I'm close to verbatim, but I won't claim verbatim, okay? I'm just paraphrasing. So transformational leadership creates that trust and that bond in which all what you talk about, the change where you want. Now the organization then you use, your structures then our government, your public servant them, you head of departments, you policy advisors, for work around the clock with others, for bring about the change where you envisage. So family, when they see the trait right there, how will it go? So we talk about the visionary leader, and within that visionary leader they want. We talk about the transformational leader, where are they right now, and within that transformational leader they kind of mean to a nation, okay? And when you put these two together, you can see that there is a kind of a relationship. And this is not the combination what we want to put together today. And that's just two of them. I want to talk about a third one. And then we go talk about fourth one. The third one, very, very important. And in the bigger scheme of things, the third one is the one that is looming large, because whichever ones I don't talk about or I intend talking about or that we'll talk about, this one where they can talk about, it loom large and inform the basis, and not only the basis, but if you form the basis or the root of something, that means everything else depends on that root. It cannot be the other way around. But it also happened for be the roof. But the primary thing about it is it formed the basis, the root, and this is democracy. This is democracy, a word that we use almost all of the time, if not all of the time, and for good reasons. A word that we bound here and there, that we can use loosely, and sometimes that we use more seriously, but very hard when it comes to applicability, because the cultures or the threads that bind us are supposed to where the language and the structure of what this democratic process or leadership supposed to entail or embody comes from a different end. So if it get to be defined, then it will have to be redefined, because some of the contours that democracy form make it difficult for just execute them. And some of these democratic countries that preaches democracy to us, it took them hundreds of years for them to arrive. And imagine we are only 60, and when we understand we kind of troubles that we've gone through, whether we want to talk about the system of slavery, whether we want to talk about the system of colonialism, neocolonialism. In other words, which are they try to establish processes that destabilize us structurally, in which an entire continent that had its own leadership, its own processes, its own institutions, where people and they denial of, or those that they accept, they say, well, yes, it did exist, but we need some changes. Of course. So was Europe. In Europe, people were living in caves long before we are where we are now. So these things, they do change over a period of time, because people kind of move on. You can go back to historical terms in terms of man, whether a Neanderthal man you want to talk about, the discovery of weapons or tools for hunt. So man always thinking, man always the device, how for make fire long before the advent of matches and other things there for make fire, put two stones together and things like that. So anyway, democratic leadership, now that kind of leadership style in which the government and the leadership, most especially the leadership, is mostly a head, but the power and the actions that are supposed to impact the lives of the people and shape the destiny of a country in a positive way, it lies with the subordinate them, the structures of government. So we see how intertwined some of these systems of leadership are. We go back eventually when we conclude, we go think whether these are the combination of leaderships that we might need. Because I will end up on paternalistic and why. But if the democratic leadership supposed to get ahead, very powerful head though, but in power, not lie in intimidating people, in threatening people, in disappearing people. That's not the power. I mean, you are already a powerful person, but you don't exhibit your power by threatening vulnerable people, people that you are far powerful than, even though they gave you the power. Your power derived from them collectively. Your power, or if you want to be powerful, respected, become a legend, a hero, is how you help to shape the destiny of your nation by embarking on projects which bear fruits that lift a nation from poverty to prosperity. This is what the country needs. The shape of the country is in a bad shape economically. And sometimes as soon as you say this, people take offense at the time that you're saying it without giving due cause of thought as to why or what the reality is, because this is the reality. If we don't speak of it, it will never work, because we need to be candid. We need to come out and identify what the problems are, diagnose the problem, and mostly we've done it. But the issues of insincerity, which prompted the subject matter here this evening, is at the very center of the conversation, which is causing serious havoc on social media. So a democratic leader just holds final responsibility. And that final responsibility, the way that democratic leader hold, it depends on how that in management team, the way it come for trust, that are guided. Imagine this, listen to this, that are guided by principles, by morals, by ethics, by the law, I repeat. That takes them forward, because all of these combinations make them to pledge their allegiance not to the man who even assigned or delegated to them, but a true belief within them based on principles, ethics, and morals that country comes first. That when the country prosper, they prosper along with the rest of their countrymen. It's not self-serving. That's what it is. That's what it should be. So this kind of democratic leadership delegates these duties to these various structures of government, civil servants, policy analysts, to develop and implement, ministers, heads of departments and parastatals, just basically the machinery of government. Because all of those structures of government has to be well-oiled. In other words, well-run by dedicated servants. Yes, you have to respect the leadership, but your allegiance is not to the leadership. Your allegiance is to country and your countrymen. What you do is to the president's credit, of course, but the bigger credit is to the nation, not an individual. The president might take pride in that and should feel very proud of that, because under his or her administration, the country thrived. And history will never forget who was the president at the time. Does not have to be personal. Does not. So, Pambulem, that democratic leadership is very, very key. And the reason why I continue for home on and lay emphasis on them, because like I say, the three other aspects I don't talk about too, including this one, democratic leadership, and the last one, where I want for wrap up, is very, very important, because the democratic principle turns out to be the root. It's not as easy as I say, but sure enough, the basics we can do, but we have not been doing them. We're not going to do them at all. Instead, we become selfish, we become self-serving, we become more divided, we practice more identity politics, more divisive politics, more ethno-regional and tribal politics, and they on the increase, and this does not augur well for a nation. If you got a nation, there's a reason why they say a nation means one. Doesn't mean multiple. We've only got one nation. We can't continue to carve up that nation there because this set of people live yonder, this tall set of people live yonder. No, that's why I reiterated the president in maiden speech when he addressed the nation upon assuming power, that I will be president for all Sierra Leoneans, for all of Sierra Leone. Very, very important. Very, very important. Okay, so Fambulan, the last one I want to come to, and this one very key as well. But then we go see how we go border all four of them and see how much of them does make sense. So the last one for me is called paternalistic leadership. Paternal. We need to go back to the word paternal. And hence you've been seeing on the flyer. Hence you've been seeing on the flyer whether we need a fatherly, which was meant paternalistic. Somebody will get paternal kind of feeling, like mama feeling, like papa feeling. This is exactly what I try for say. So let me look back a little, waiting we country don't go through, okay? We country, first of all, very rich, very, very rich. This administration knows that. The administration before this one knows that. The one before the last knows that. Every one of them know that. They've not been able to manage us well, manage our economy well, manage our resources well, the one that we God give you. Honestly, I am telling you, I have walked a little bit around the corridor and I've heard. And we don't need to go too far. We can look at international papers. We can do research. and find out what we get. And as per population, should we manage what we have rightfully? We cannot, under no condition, we go able for fend, or we supposed for fend ourselves or with people and then poverty there. On the poverty way we people defend themselves, way we fend themselves. No way. But why should fend people at the very top extremely rich? The extreme, so extreme that people are extremely poor. I don't know how people go to bed at night. You dance, you eat. When people and they suffer, you they married. When people are not get light, you they celebrate because you have, which shows, there's no feeling. Hence the paternalistic thing where they talk about. There is no feeling. So had we somebody of some kind of paternal love for country and countrymen, probably the thought process will be different. Why would you be happy if a vast majority of your people not happy? Nobody they try for play on your happiness, and as an individual, you can choose for be happy. But in this case, when they talk about leadership, let me draw the line. We are talking about leadership. If you people the way you the lead, and hear me out, fumble them. If you people the way you the lead, they are not happy, how then would you go about celebrating publicly some degree of happiness when you people are supposed to rise with you, laugh with you, celebrate with you, especially on joyous occasion? These are all misplaced. So paternalistic leadership, it will take care of we problem them where we get because the person or the leadership they feel for we, the people, as a parent will feel for in picking or picking them. Just like the animals themselves, paternalistic feeling is inbred. And nobody need to teach you, and because it's a feeling that just they inside. So animals do have it, then take care of the young, then fend food for them, grow them, milk them until they become of age and able to fend themselves. And even before then they go fend themselves, the responsibility is on the part of the mama and the papa for make provision for them, teach them how eventually they will become independent. Nation-wise, leadership-wise, this is exactly what's supposed to happen. Make structure, deliver structure, create the atmosphere, the enabling environment for let things thrive, let things happen. And then gradually, you will succor you picking them, you will win them out. And when you win them out, they themselves, biblically speaking, will become fishers of men. And then create an entire industry on their own. And because you were working on different industries, fisherman and they under, plumber and they under, carpenter and they under, strategists and they under, over a period of time, whether or not you time, 5 years, 10 years, this is gradually something where they lift the country up, because this is what you've been paying attention to, get the country moving. So again, Fambul, and this is probably why I think we need or ask the question, what do you think about this kind of leadership, paternalistic, so you feel? And the reason why I draw the example, we've seen many a times in which there was no sense of paternalism, a kind of feel like mama and papa thing. No, there wasn't that feel. A nation was hungry, people were in blackouts. We saw a wedding. Even the reporter asked question, traffic, of course, it was low-key, but it went on anyway. And the timing for many people was poor. And it became a social media argument as if no one wants the president to marry. Who would not want the president? Why? I don't get it. Maybe some, I don't know why, because the first lady is fond of coming on radio and social media and throwing hints. And this is another one. Now I'm about to close, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the thing. Very, very interesting. Okay. All of these which I don't talk in terms of leadership style, I wish we can combine a few of them. Because in my humble opinion, I'm a highly opinionated social media pundit, and I can weigh in with my opinions. but I also do listen. So I believe charismatic leadership will be essential for the country. It's a good attribute, a good characteristic. Visionary leadership will also be good for the country. Paternalistic leadership will also good for the country. And above all, democratic leadership. So if we imbue all of these things together with transformational leadership, then a leadership in which the leader, all he wants to do now for make changes. So with something that they work, they do something for make and work. This is exactly USA, I think, say this four can come together and work for we. But here is what is not been working. So we need to identify those, agree that these leadership forms that I am proposing, or submitting to you, they are not present. And if we could find these forms of leadership, then matters could change, because suddenly there will be real feelings, not pretend feelings. You can't do one good here today, and tomorrow you are dancing at the demise of others. Let's say, for example, our leadership saw people gone down in Pademba Road. Dozens and dozens of people. Remember, these things don't go away, mind you. And it's a responsibility on our part to keep mentioning them, because there needs to be an inquiry. What happened on that day? Up till now, we've not been told. Yet dozens and dozens of people lost their lives. And we saw on social media, those evidence are still there. They've been kept in archives. Members of the ruling party, whether it's the head of the women's wing, who later on recanted a statement and made funny, because people think it's funny. And this is the thing why we're talking about paternalistic. If you've got feeling for your countrymen, you don't do things as dumb and crass as that. Remember from the beginning of the program, I said leadership thinks that they are smart and clever, but what is there is because they think that this leadership is protecting them. They feel invincible, and they take actions not really considering the mindset of the people, the situation of the people. They say things that are really dumb. And going back to what I was just saying, during the Pademba Road massacre, she came out, the leader of the SLPP women's wing, who's gone silent for quite a while, because of course she's having her own troubles in there with the First Lady. She said these things that were very, very much implicated her in a future investigations. And they came out and started telling us about voice change and what have you. Because why? They've taken us for granted for quite a while. But we are not for granted, and we are not dumb as they think. And in fact, it's the other. And we've seen other people that come up and say they want to educate the educated fools, but in the end, the educated fools educated them. So it's for you to draw the conclusion line. Who is the educated fool? I wouldn't say. Like I say, it's an opinion. It's out there for you to say. We have also never seen the president come out and try to own up to some of the responsibilities, like, for example, these citizens of his who were killed. Now, there could be a possibility that there was a prison mutiny, because the responses have been muted and we are hearing different stories. There could have been a prison mutiny. What led to the mutiny? But of course, once you begin to answer those questions, there are more questions, and then you have to develop answers, which eventually will expose what the reality is. Now, I'm not judging that there was no prison mutiny, but even if there was a prison mutiny, innocent people will have died. And this is where government officials come out and apologize in behalf of those innocent citizens that will have lost their lives. Just the mere loss of lives should claim the attention of the leadership, and a statement should be made to the general public, other than calling people generally terrorists, which did not go down well at all, both domestically and internationally. You cannot label over half of your constituents or your citizens as terrorists just for political gain and short-term populist, your talk. That was a blunder of some huge magnitude. And I know people are trying to put that behind them, and they don't like people like us reiterating them. But I'm trying to draw a context here. The things that have been happening, which are relevant to the conversation here tonight. Let's look at TikTok, for example. Let's understand what TikTok is in terms of social media. Of course, let's look at the age group who are there and why they're there. Basically, what is it there for? So it could be used, for information sending by a certain age group. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is the First Lady has become a customer of TikTok. For which reasons? I'm still trying to ask. Which reasons? Because I'm not saying that she should not be using TikTok. I would rather not even have her used it because there are other platforms that she can use. But because TikTok has become one of the most dominant and relevant, and the First Lady is always trying to be there, so she's now there. But when you're there, what messages are you sending to your people, Madam First Lady? This is the question. Because all I see is hints. And it bothers me that up to this day, you haven't risen above this office yet. I mean, the first year, it could be understood, from there to here, and then gradually the second year, and then the third year, and you still throwing hints. In those songs, our songs, which largely are just hints, and these are, I don't get it. I wonder, and I don't think it's just me, because I try to avoid that. But for goodness sake, you're the First Lady of the country. And again, that's why I asked the question, will a motherly love or a motherly leadership, because you see, the roles and duties of the First Lady is to milk the president, is to take care of the president, is to ensure that the president is in sound mind, sound judgment, mentally strong, physically strong, every day when he wakes up, because she's the last that sees him or supposed to see him. She's the first that sees him when he wakes up. So that's prevalently her duty. That's what she's supposed to be doing. And I'm sure she's doing that, but then it's compounded with politics. Ensure that the environment of the president is as supposed to be befitting, especially when entertaining foreign guests and etc., in conjunction with the relevant ministries or bureaus or structures, because these things have structures. But no, this is not the case. And the case about social media, come on, Madam First Lady, come on. You don't have to be like the other First Ladies. You can still be on TikTok. Why not use it to send a positive message? Why? Facebook, why not use it to send a positive message? You're probably doing so, but I don't get to see that. Or I see less of the positives than the negatives. But even the negatives, I don't think they should be happening. You should have stayed away from that. Let other people deal with that for you. You don't have to. You have to respond. Really? You should understand the magnitude of your office. Anyway, this is the reason why I talk about transformational leadership, paternalistic leadership, fatherly and motherly figure, charismatic and visionary. All of these combinations put together, undoubtedly, I know say, it will bring about a change, because waiting we get under that we go on day, supposed to take us out of poverty. But throughout these decades, we've had leaders who have just been self-serving. When they come, then do half, and that half they then compete between themselves, who that do this and who that do that for 60 years. Look at us. 60 years. Look at us. First war, 70, 75,000 of people and die. People limbs got hacked. Some of them are living with that kind of thing today as we speak. And yet some of us are going about, government officials and living large without due consideration for the people. And when you make one road, it's big celebration. Even though now your duty, you perform your duty. When you make one bridge, big celebration. Seriously, how many jobs have you created? And this is the other thing. So for give people the money, it's not really a bad thing, but it equally get you on disadvantage, because you almost they make people and get hooked up to you giving them money, other than providing wealth, providing atmosphere, providing jobs so that they become self-employed, gainfully employed. And that also helps the wider society because they are getting paid. They pay taxes. And those taxes, of course, are used for improve the lives of the people and the country as a whole. So that's what we should be focused on, not for the travel with bundles of money. I don't know, Munafa and call it Munafu, and go put people under a sun, and divide money to them. That's a good feeling because people are broke and you're taking advantage of people's brokenness and they go giving them money. How long do those monies last for? And how long can you continue for giving them money today? So I guess you should be focusing on structures, structural, infrastructural development, job creation, investment, environment, that is suitable and conducive for them things they are for happen. That's where they focus for day. About 3, 4, 5 times now, it's like say na every day or na almost, then things there where you continue for the do. Good thing, but no, because it shows the vulnerability of we people there. That's a sore sight. People are making line, elders, big and old and small and one have you. And they look almost like bribery. And we know say people are not beginning to go into campaign mode. Elections are not far away. It's 2 years from now. And that's why we're going to try and start educating the masses. Because pretty soon, just like the government don't seem to go into campaign gear, we responsible media, and I repeat, responsible media, not media within the channel, your funds to, for peddle narrative, but people out there do know. They do know. So we will get for begin prime with people and for begin for understand exactly what's up. So that when they make the decision, we are not telling people who to vote for, which way to vote. We're just providing information. This is what the then and now media empire is about. At least the choice we they make in the end should be an informed choice. Mohammed Kamara Mansari in jail for 13 months. 13 months. And we ask question, what is going on? Foster, a young man who was shot, now the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Mr. Lahai Lawrence Lima, still a languish in jail. And we understand, say, in foot, almost they go because he was shot. Instead of hospital, he's in jail. Now, we talk about your power. You get power not to show you they exhibit your power where somebody vulnerable. Somebody need medical help. Instead of hospital, you can't go to jail, in a prison. Ebo? Now, who's kind of power? Who's kind of power? Powerful men don't act like that. It's people who are insecure. We want to let people afraid and they go and not just and do things them where they beyond the world. And then you want to turn around and tell we see the judiciary system the work. The president get for intervene by everything. Do you have to do that? A man, a citizen of yours, you fire him under dubious circumstances. This to be look and under. Instead of hospital, that young man still a languish in jail. Many, many months on. And there are so many things. Police brutality. We need some kind of reform. But of course, governments upon governments don't politicize sections of the police because we know, say, the outlining general thing about the police, the institution itself, is to do good, to be a force for good. It's for the people, by the people, with the people. But you see many a times, the same people we pay them, then turn their weapons against the people and brutalize and bastardize the people at the behest of government officials. And this is not all the police. And I'm not speaking to the institution as a whole, just bad elements within the police. Ladies and gentlemen, we still get hard work for do. There is still plenty of hard work for do. But with determination, I have no doubt that we can do them. We just get for continue for talk and make people understand, say, the leadership they understand, say, that we understand within the ground and will not be having this. So I'm about to wrap up. Tomorrow, Supermed will be on the program. We'll be hosting this program inside Salon today. And just a couple of announcements. And like we say, we'll just try with system, same for the work, and not complete yet. I think in guest now, the APC aspiring chairperson in the United States, Mr. Kaloko, no know the name, not remember the name, but definitely he will be here on this program tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I have Honorable 3-time parliamentarian, Honorable Ibrahim Bundu will be on the program. we get a mishap last Thursday, I believe, or Wednesday. So the program wasn't held as was supposed to. But we did on the Sunday, God willing, should be fine. We are all geared up for that. And then I will just provide information because these are the people that are conducting the elections for constituency people or delegates there, if you would like. Because I believe every constituency, 5 people are supposed to be elected. We consequently therefore go to the APC convention, which is slated for this month, I believe, between the 17th and the 19th, to go adopt the proposed new constitution. So he's part and parcel of this process, and with so much story around the process, who's better to talk to than one of the people who are conducting these elections? So Honorable Ibrahim Bundu, I believe is a household name, 3 times parliamentarian. It's no longer in parliament, by the way, will be here. So we'll talk about that. So Fambula, here is the thing. What we need for do in terms, in your opinion again, is we need for search for the economic truth. Because one of the most major problem, I mean, the president can demonstrate military hardware where supposedly go look or go buy. It is good for the institution, but that is not a priority now. And not a thing for the showcase whilst people are starving and going hungry, if you know what I mean. So we get for search for economic solutions, economic truth, okay? Because the consequences of what happened, just like I said earlier, is deadly, and people is becoming unbearable. Really unbearable, because the cries are increasing. People are admitting to it. Even people who support, traditional supporters of the government, are doing so, complaining about the difficulties. Because you see, the difficulties does not attack only those or affect only those who are not supporting the president or his party or his government. It's a national issue. So that's why we should come together on certain things. We can have our differences, but in the end, we should disagree to agree. No wish bad or death on each other. There's no coming back. If I can take a line from, I think that the late Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie. They don't wish death on anybody, because in death, there's no coming back. That's the highest level of evil that one can think about someone else. If price of petrol pump don't go up, it's obvious. Let's stop misleading with people and lie to with people. It's obvious that prices of services go up and goods go up. Because that money we get for putting pepper and that, they get for putting in transport. That money we they pay for transport, it's no longer the same. Why does she get it? Is she being generous instead of the struggle for put food on the table? And another market deny they depend on. Suddenly the cost in production don't go up because the machine when they use or whatever don't go up. So costs go up, transport can go up. So therefore add all of that, because in the end itself they look for one lility. And we should say thank you, because if they go through their struggle and they for make sure say it's serve we that when we go to market, Pepe did it. But in the end, we the consumer then feel the brunt, just like the mommy said, feel the brunt, and everybody else. It's a knock-on effect. Now it make for try hard and call them out and try for find solution. We get for search for new ideas because the old ideas know they work, and stop the blame game. Because suddenly we can realize if something is beginning to work or working, then obviously 3 years doesn't matter. If something is not working and I'm supposed to own it because I'm now driving the narrative, then of course, well, I've only been here 3 years. The responsibility is on those for the 11 years. We need to stop this. We need to be realistic. The people who are shaping policies in town are the government. Yes, once in a while we do references, but 4 years on, you've gone past that 100 days a long time ago. And we are now holding you responsible for things that you told us, not in malice, but what you promised us. At most, that's what we're doing. So anyway, we careful look for new solution then, because the old one, they never work. So let me say again, a paternalistic, a matriarchal, a patriarchal sort of solution. In other words, the mommy and the pa get a sort of feeling they for the fellow countrymen, all of Sierra Leone, might just help for change things. Okay? It might just help for change things and will not for doing the opposite way. The leadership, not for find itself in a situation where it provoke others or being hypocritical about things simply because somebody not support you. No, that's absolutely wrong. That's wrong. Provoke, hypocrite, throw hints at somebody because they not support you. Come on. President go look arms, they say they bring the arms or can shoot the other people. I'm not saying the government said, but these are people, some of them very prominent in the support of government. If government was to say anything, you'll say, okay, don't take them seriously. But what effort have you made to say, that's too extreme? None. Instead, some media that are pathetic or that hold views which are more favorable towards government are helping to parrot this narrative. So that's where we take it from. Okay. So a period of extreme violence continue to take place, even though we don't struggle with all of this over a number of decades. We need to stop. We need to stop them. We really need to stop them. Honestly, the question what I want to end up with is partisanship and greed don't take grip of the country. It's getting extreme, but I believe it can be rescued. But it's getting really extreme and therefore really scary. I think government need to pay attention to that. And probably I think government, they hopefully look at from a point of view that if the economic trend can turn, then of course a lot of this will go away because waiting the oil this machine, this division machine, is because of the economic difficulties. They set one set of group of people where they support the other and another set of group of people where they support the other for be so much at loggerhead, so far apart. And the far apart is like the space they widen, but they are taking themselves away from the center because the center cannot hold. It's a problem by itself. So the question is, where is the social services where the government is supposed to provide for the people? We see instances of no price control. We see huge disparity in income and wealth. One person poor, extremely poor, one person rich, and very few, very, very rich, and having such a great time. We see partisan politics, identity politics, just they grow too far and wide for us. The people have kept their part of the social contract. I repeat, the people have kept their part of the social contract. My question here is, government, where is your end of the bargain? Where is your end of the bargain? When are you going to begin to solve the social problems of our people? The sharing of money to your fan base does not solve the problem. It's a tentative thing. And this is why people get hooked up to it and somebody else come, they practice the same thing. And this is an age-old practice. We thought we were marching towards a new direction. It's probably not too late to march into that new direction, or is it? Mr. President, Madam First Lady, Government of Sierra Leone, in behalf of the Sierra Leonean people, I ask, where is the reason to hope? Ladies and gentlemen, I will end here. For the Then and Now Media platform, I've been your host and presenter today, the 3rd day of September, 2021. This na Prince Emil Krumade say, una goodbye to all. Thank you very much for listening. Tune in tomorrow at the same time.